Hey fellow tennis nerds, I hope all is well. It's Friday, let's do another mixed bag because I got some things wrong in my previous mixed bag released on Monday, so please check that one as well. The first thing I got wrong was that Popyrin actually has made a switch or is testing this Dunlop FX500 Tour instead of his standard head PT57A 16-19 string pattern pro stock that he was using before. I've had his previous racket, I've played with it, but now he's changing to something completely different. The PT57A is flexible, you know, kind of low powered unless you add a bunch of weight, and it has a small head size. The Dunlop FX500 Tour is more of a modern racket to high stiffness, a little bit bigger head size, more spin, more pace. So we will see how this works out for him. He's had a tough 2022. 3 wins, 13 losses, so maybe this racket change can get him back on track. Sometimes it just leads to further confusion. I'm sure many of you relate. When you're downing your gear, it can be very hard to perform, and that's something I tell a lot of players. Sometimes it's better to stick with what you have and avoid confusion than to go on this search that never seems to end. But for some players, they find a better racket that works better for them, and then they play better tennis and they can focus on their game instead. But for some, it becomes this endless wandering through the jungle, and that's what we want to avoid. And my consultation service is up for you guys who struggle to find the right gear for your game. But we'll see how it goes for Alexei Popyrin. He's a talented guy, and this racket change will be interesting to follow, as it will with Denis Shapovalov. I've talked about him in many videos now. I just want to confirm that he's actually testing the new unreleased V-Core 95. I got that from a source close to Yonex instead of the V-Core 98 that I speculated around in the previous video. So the new V-Core 95 that is yet to be released should be end of this year, I assume. That's the one he is testing in a blacked out frame. You can check it if you zoom in, you see that it's 1620, which is typical for the V-Core 95. Another player that is testing Yonex rackets from V-Core to E-Zone instead is Yoshihito Nishioka. He is testing the E-Zone 98, the new one, 305 grams, 7th generation E-Zone. He used to use an older generation of the V-Core 98, but right now he's playing with a blacked out frame and he's doing pretty well. So it's not the frame usually, but it's always interesting to see if it has any kind of effect on how they play. I try to follow that, and I try to bring you these news on tennisnerd.net and this YouTube channel. If we stay on the topic of E-Zone 98, we can talk about Naomi Osaka's designed E-Zone 98. She has designed a new racket together with her sister Mari, and it looks pretty spectacular to me. I haven't held it in my hands, so always look up close. Some players really dislike the head extreme rackets, but when you actually hold them in your hand, they look much better, for example. New racket for Naomi Osaka. She actually made the switch from her old AI98 that she used for many years, pretty much her entire professional career, to the current generation E-Zone, the 7th generation, the same that Nishioka is testing and that Shapo was testing before. So she has this new racket. Now it's going to come with a cool new design, and we'll see that at the US Open, I'm sure. So look out for Naomi's racket. It will be for sale as well. I'm not sure if it's only would be through Yonex or also at like Tennis Warehouse and these other retail stores. Design is something that many brands have focused on in recent years, especially Wilson. They've done collaborations with famous fashion designers, Brito, Kith, Minions, which is not a famous designer, but from a famous brand. So they've used other brand collaborations to sell more rackets, bring their brand out. Prince does that a lot, together with Dave Grutman now, doing some collaborations with apparel and other things. So you'll see that more and more, brand X brand. For the US Open, Wilson's not doing a collaboration, but they're doing a night session release. So they're releasing night session rackets, and from the Instagram and from what I can assume, they will have some kind of glow in the dark type paint for the US Open night sessions. We will see how they look when they're on the court. I guess some pros will use and endorse these rackets. They come with no spec changes. This is just a design update, and it will be done for the Clash 100 version 2, the Pro Staff version 13, 315 gram version, and the Blade 98 1619 version. So you can get these night session rackets. I'm quite curious, do you care about the design at all? Do these releases interest you, or are you just there for the playability? I'm not very picky with design, but very picky with how the racket plays. So Maybe you're the same, or maybe you're more picky to have everything match, or you have your favorite color on the racket, or whatever. So let me know in the comments how picky you are about the racket looking nice, the bag, and so on. As expected, the reveal of the new Pure Aero has created a lot of buzz. I get a lot of questions about the new models. Will there be a 98 as the Aero VS? And yes, there will be. I talk about that very briefly in my review, and we also talk about that, me and Henrik Wallensten, my friend and racket expert. He's also a Davis Cup stringer and a good player. He joined me for a podcast about the new Pure Aeros. So we do that, and you can find it on tennisnerd.net, Spotify, iTunes, and other podcast platforms. So it's 20 minutes talk about the new Pure Aero line. If you're curious about that line, many seem to be. And there will be a Pure Aero 98 replacing the VS. There will be some flax fibers in that one to change the feel a little bit, more of a vibration filtration according to Babla. And there will be a cosmetic update, but the specs will remain the same as far as I know. So the Aero 98 will come at a later date. It seems like there will be a Plus version as well, but I'm not sure about the Tour. So some of you have asked about the Plus, the extended version, and the Tour, but I don't know if they were doing a Tour. Maybe they're seeing it like that you can customize the regular Aero. Rafa will also get his own Aero as he has today, although that's more of a cosmetic change. Maybe there will be spec updates. Maybe there will be a unique Rafa spec version, but who can use his 360 swing weight? I don't know. Maybe they just do a special cosmetic like they have for him already, or something that is a bit of a spec change as well. They talked a lot about more spin in the podcast between Tennis Warehouse, Michelle at Tennis Warehouse, and Babula. So check that one out on the Tennis Warehouse channel. So they talked about the Rafa racket to come later on. I don't know the exact dates. If you have any information, let me know in the comments below. Some of the racket brands don't want to talk to me because I'm somewhat critical to them. So yeah, that's life of a reviewer. Head Extreme rackets, I know many of you are curious. I'm working on my review, I'm testing them thoroughly. That's really what I try to do. I try to get to the bottom of it. What is different between the outgoing 360 Plus version and the added Oxetic? Especially now, since they are very minor updates, you need to tweak and feel out what is really happening in the string bed, how is this affecting the play and the pace and so on. The Oxetic tech has been, I would say, a minor improvement in pretty much all rackets. I wasn't a huge fan of the Prestige, but like the Speed, for example. So I'm curious to see how this compares for the Extreme Tour, for example, which was my favorite Extreme racket. So I'm stringing that one up soon. I have it on my stringer now. I'm gonna test that one. I've tested already the MP and the Team. So more to come about the Extremes. Please consider becoming a patron of Tennis Nerd or buying something through our affiliates. The links are in the description. One of them is Fuzzy Yellow Balls. They have a really cool app, very well made. And in that app, they have something called Crush It, which is a way for you to learn more about how to use your whole kinetic chain in generating more pace on the ball. And that's something I think we're all a little bit curious about. How can we use more of our body to generate more pace, more effortless pace? And this app really deals with all the different body parts involved in generating pace. For example, the serve part is free. Then you have the forehand and backhand. I guess you need to subscribe for that. It's not extremely expensive, so you can check that out in the App Store, the Fuzzy Yellow Balls app, and Crush It. Very interesting product, well produced. That is all for this one. Please always check out tennisnerd.net for the latest, and follow me on Instagram, Tennis Nerd Insta, Twitter, and so on. Have a nice weekend now, and don't forget to play some tennis.